Welcome to my webinar studio review. In this webinar studio review, I'll be sharing with you absolutely everything that you need to know about this webinar tool. You get to know absolutely everything that you need to know about webinar studio, as for you to know whether it is actually a great webinar tool or whether it's just another one out there that you need to avoid completely. You get to know all of that in this webinar studio review. So basically in this webinar studio review, I'm talking about what webinar studio is all about. That is what this tool stands for, what they've got in stock for you, and what you are most likely to get from using webinar studio. You also get to see who can use webinar studio, and most importantly what they've got in stock for you and what you are most likely to get from using webinar studio. You also get to see the pros and the cons of using webinar studio, because for everything that has a good side, if you observe very carefully, you definitely find a bad side as well, which I'm going to share with you in the course of this webinar studio review. You also get to see the pricing plans. You get to see what the features are like, what the feature they've got, what they look like, what you stand to see, what you stand to get from webinar studio, the capacity of this particular tool. You get to see all of that in this particular aspect of this webinar studio review. So it's very, very important for you to ensure that you keep to the end of this webinar studio review, so you won't miss the most important information I need to have about it. You also get to hear from other active users of webinar studio out there. That is, you get to hear from other existing users of webinar studio out there. You get to hear their own views as to their own personal opinion, as to their own personal encounter with webinar studio. It doesn't necessarily have to be what I say alone, and I saw hear from other active users and hear their own opinion as to what they feel about webinar studio in this webinar studio review. And the final part, which is the most important part of this webinar studio review, this is exactly where you get to know what I personally feel about webinar studio. This is exactly where you get to know whether this is actually a great tool that is actually worth using, or whether it's just another one out there that you need to avoid completely. This is exactly where you get to know my own personal opinion as to what webinar studio is. Like I said, it's very, very important for you to ensure that you keep to the end of this webinar studio review, so you won't miss the most important information that you need to have about webinar studio. So let's go. So what is webinar studio? Webinar studio is actually a webinar tool that allows you to host video conferences, meetings, and webinars by hosting your communication on webinar studio. You can see what we have on their home page. They said, and now tap into the power of limitless video conference meetings and webinar hosting, and at an unbeatable low one-time cost. So basically it's a webinar tool that allows you to host videos, to host classes, to host live conferences right on the internet. So basically that's what webinar studio is. So anyone at all who wants to create a visually and auditorily appealing video conferencing, video conference, this is a tool that can actually help you get that done. So anyone at all, whether you want to run a class, whether you're a consultant, whether you're a coach, you're a school, or this is a kind of tool that can actually help you create such environment for sharing information digitally on using a webinar tool. So basically that's what webinar studio is all about. So let's go. So what are the interesting side of using webinar studio? The first thing I have here is the fact that webinar studio allows you to easily host unlimited numbers of webinars, meetings, live chats, and training sessions. That is, you are not limited to the number of webinars that you can have. You are not capped, so you can actually create unlimited. You can actually host unlimited events with this kind of tool, as opposed to other tools out there where you have limitations to the number of webinars, number of meetings that you can actually have. And also another interesting thing about webinar studio is the fact that they've got loads of interesting features, including audio and video sharing. That is, they've also got a real-time messaging platform, a real-time messaging tool, and as well share file. You can actually share your screen, you can have a live chat and more. And also it's also a very secured platform, based on the fact that everything that is happening has been encrypted with their SSL encryption, as well as to protect the activity of your event. your activities. Sorry, and also they've also got an ultra fast server that allows a super smooth webinar experience. That is, when you are when you are streaming or when you are using this platform, the fast server that they've incorporated into their system allows you to have a very smooth webinar experience where everybody can get the information as dispensed, and also it's such a highly economical tool as opposed to other webinar tools with the recurring expenses. This is just a one-time tool. Once you pay once, you have the tool for life, and then you don't have to pay for any other expenses of any kind again. So it's highly economical, and also it's also going to save you time, stress, and even money. That is, as opposed to you teaching, lecturing, and also passing knowledge in the traditional way where everyone has to mix physically. This tool allows you to save such time. It's going to save you stress, and it's going to even save you a lot of money as well. And also they've also got a great customer support. Like, one thing I keep saying and I'll never stop saying is this: I'll never use any tool out there that does not offer great customer support, because any new tool that you are newly introduced to, there is a likelihood, there is a tendency that you may experience one or two issues, and you may encounter one or two problems in the course of using the tool. And if the customer support is not there to help you out, then in that case it's not worth it. Yes, in the case of this, they've got great customer support across all their communication channel, and they're always willing to help you and help you solve your problem when the need arises. Also, this particular tool allows you to create on-demand webinars. That is, you don't necessarily have to be live or physically active at every point in time. Also, it becomes more interesting because of the fact that you can as well send reminders to your audience to remind them of your scheduled meeting or what have you. And to the bad side, when it comes to our webinar studio at the moment, I've not really found any major negative side to this tool. Of course, it can be better. They can make it better. That is, any tool that appears to be great, any tool that appears to be nice can actually be better than what it is. So of course, they can improve on what they've currently put out there, so it can actually be better. To the pricing plan now, they've got different pricing. Different pricing plans, but the barest minimum you can ever get started with is about $17.25 for a one-time payment with our webinar studio. Like I said, this plan has its own capacity as to what it can allow you to do, as to what you can stand to gain, as to the level at which it can go. So that's why it's very important for you to see all of these. That's why it's very important for you to click on the link right in this video description, so you can see the full pricing for the packages, the bonuses, the offers, and the discount that comes with our webinar studio. Like I said, the barest minimum you can ever get started with about $17.25 for a one-time payment, so you can get to see all what you stand to gain with webinar studio, as to their features, as to the bonuses, to the offers and the discount. That's why it's very important for you to click on the link right away in this video description, so you can see the full pricing for all the packages, offers, and the discount that comes with our webinar studio. Now let's get to hear from other activities. This is Abiji. It said it sounds like a phenomenal concept, it's a phenomenal product. That's someone. This is another person. They said great service and value for money. That's another user. Now let's go to what I personally feel about webinar studio. Well, in my own opinion, based on my personal experience with webinar studio, I would say webinar studio has actually got a great tool that is reasonably easy to use, and it's highly efficient for running a seamless webinar experience. It also allows you to share your information under a smooth web environment. Webinar studio is going to save you a lot of stress, a lot of money, and a lot of time, and it's going to get you the best out of your effort by exponentially enhancing your business communication, your business engagement, likewise your business conversion as well. And as such, it's going to help you turn your business around. And also, they've also got a great customer support. Like I said, I love customer support so much, and they've also got a 30-day money back guarantee, where you can test out this tool for 30 days and see how it works. If you love it, you can keep using it. If you don't, you can decide to discontinue. So there's no risk involved. You're safe with what? You're safe with Webinar Studio. I will say again, Webinar Studio is actually worth it because they serve the primary function of a meaningful webinar tool out there. With all I've said, if you think our Webinar Studio is something you want to give a try, I want to check it out. I want to see how Webinar Studio works well. Right in this video description is a special link. Just click on that special link. You'll be able to get started with Webinar Studio at a very unusual discounted price, and you're not going to find elsewhere. This to enjoy all of what our Webinar Studio has put in place for you to test out this webinar tool, to see the capacity. Right in this video description is a special link. So click on it, you'll be able to get started with Webinar Studio at a very unusual discounted price. and you're not going to find elsewhere. On that note, I want to say thanks for watching my webinar studio review. If you found any value in this video, to like and subscribe to this channel. If you have any question as regards webinar studio, you can make it up in the comment box below. Ask your questions. I'm going to look at it and see if something I can answer. Once again, don't forget to like and subscribe. And once again, thanks for watching my webinar studio review, and bye for now.